Salty and spice. Why can't we have anything nice? I'm Catherine Urban. I'm an astrologer with over 16 years of astrological immersion, practice, and study. And today I'm going to be breaking down the new moon in Leo chart with an exact opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. Yes, we've got power dynamics, upheavals, big reveals. And we also have a high contrast forecast of a Venus-Jupiter juicy alignment in Cancer, as well as a brutal Mars-Saturn opposition. So let's pull up the chart and get into it. The new moon is going down at 2 degrees Leo and 8 minutes in a partile. That means exact opposition with Pluto here at 2 degrees Aquarius and only 36 minutes. This is a very, very tight configuration, which is going to dominate the heavens and simultaneously the reflection of the collective here on Earth in the terrestrial sphere. So this is going to be an extremely loud and dominating aspect for us over the next 2 weeks from now at the exact moment of the new moon on July 24th, leading up to the following lunation on August 9th. So even though this Sun-Pluto opposition would normally only be felt for maybe about 4 or 5 days, we're now going to be working with it for 2 more weeks. Yeah, and we've been feeling the buildup for it because most obviously, my mind goes toward the big ol' Epstein drama, the guy who won't die, LOL. So this has been something that has been peaking, and I find it interesting that it's been peaking alongside a Mercury retrograde in Leo, which happens to correspond with Trump's first house. And what we've also had is this Venus-Mars square along the lunar nodes, which can, not always, so if you have this in your chart and you're like, not always, it can show up with like sexual deviancy or cheating or affairs. And yeah, like that big Coldplay affair reveal, like that happened on the lunar nodes, really accentuating that. Now it's everywhere. Now it's a term getting Coldplayed. Saw that. I thought that was cute, considering that these are occurring in Mercury ruled signs. So of course there would be a name for it that we can all refer to and be in on the joke. So Mercury retrograde, yeah, it's like kicking that up for him. But also the sun has to do with leadership. And the sun coming into this opposition with Pluto brings the shadow side to the surface. We've got the sun, the bringer of light, illuminating the shadow, illuminating the collective shadow, illuminating our shadows, which we'll get into here more in a moment. But illuminating the shadows of the collective. Now, I want to say a couple things about Pluto in Aquarius because we're still getting to know this energy, but we're getting pretty clear on what it's about. I mean, Pluto in Aquarius is all about the unchecked powers of technology, which is pretty much run by the technological billionaire class. I mean, it's becoming a thing that's becoming a bigger thing as Pluto deepens its roots down in the sign of Aquarius. We've also talked about the power of the people with Pluto and Aquarius and our ability to gather momentum in group dynamic, in group numbers, and to be able to resist. And it's interesting because the sun holding its rulership in Leo is opposed by Aquarius, the outsiders, the people who have been marginalized, the people who say, hey, I want a slice of that bread too. So this is going to be a big deal in terms of the people, I think, pushing back and saying like, no, we're not falling for the farces, the lies, the distractions. We know like that these files exist. You can't tell us that they don't because we elected you on the promise that you would release the Epstein files. This was such a big thing. And so what we also have on a collective level is Pluto bringing out this shadow. And something I want to say about the shadow is that a lot of people are afraid of the dark. A lot of people are afraid to look at it. A lot of people are afraid to fully investigate what is within that shadow umbrella. And so what we tend to see when we're confronted with the shadow is a lot of denial, a lot of avoidance, a lot of rage, deflection, and also projection. Like, hey, that's not mine. That belongs to you. And scapegoating, pinning it onto someone else so that it can't possibly come back to me. So we're going to see a lot of that sort of energy around this. And even though the sun is really strong in Leo, and that's going to help a lot to the solar figures. But a lot of times when we're confronted with Pluto, we don't feel like it's our moment to shine. And so I don't know how effective this is going to be. But I will say that with Aries having recently stationed, we talked about this in our last video, Aries is bloodthirsty. And we could think about that metaphorically, like we want to see accountability and people getting real ragey, like a collective PMS, basically, which a lot of times PMS is like, okay, like I'm angry because I've been nice for too long and now I don't want to be nice anymore. And Aries is just like a collective enraging. And Aries, if you read about her, Aries is spoken a lot about in the Iliad, the Homer myth about the Trojan War and how she's kind of bloodthirsty. And so I like to think about it metaphorically as like the bleeding heart, the passionate bleeding heart. Like, you told us you would do this for us and now we're burning our hats. So we're definitely going to see some of that energy pouring over into this. Yeah. So I don't know. What I can say is I've been really hesitant to, like, full story. I've been like really hesitant to dive deeper into the astrology of politics since my big deep dive last year. And I've kind of just been experiencing this Saturn Neptune sort of apathy about it. Like, okay, like I cared for a really long time. I still care, but my energy has to go other places right now, like many of you. But when I look at the forecast for what's ahead, I have to be honest with myself about what the astrology is seeing. I mean, like I said, I haven't been hopeful. I have not been optimistic, but I see this and I'm like, ooh, this looks like a moment where some dominoes are going to fall. I mean, Sun Pluto, this is an attempt to try to regain power and do whatever it takes to maintain control, maintain a sense of control. However, Pluto also blows things into mythical proportion, and this doesn't appear to be an issue that is going to be easily let go. I think there's a lot of anger, Aries, about this, and there's a desire to see people held accountable. Again, Pluto brings things that were hidden to light. It forces us to look at the shadow. It's not always going to be successful, but there's a big ask. Hey, look at this. I know you don't want to look at it, because with Pluto, the shadow, sometimes there's things that are just too morbid, too shocking, disturbing, traumatic, just fucked up, that we don't want to consciously fully give our attention to. But it's there. I mean, if you go digging about how, the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, like people being recruited from Mar-a-Lago at like teenagers, it's really gross. It's really disturbing. It is that ugly, disturbing side of Pluto that I think we're going to see here. Now, on a personal level, this could be really amazing for your own personal empowerment journey. And I say that too because on July 30th, Chiron is going to be stationing retrograde. And so Chiron is also speaking to us. Our wound is speaking to us. Our story is speaking to us. Your personal journey of trials and tribulations, victories and overcoming, that is all going to be more emphasized in our general awareness as Chiron stations retrograde for the last time in Aries, the sign of sovereignty, the sign of personhood, the sign of individuality. So as long as Chiron has been moving through Aries, I've been noticing more of an emphasis on our personal story. And we see this a lot in the social media world on like being vulnerable with a capital V. And it's like, you know, as RuPaul always says, like, we need to know your story so that we can fall in love with you. And there's so much truth to this. And we've been seeing it too as our own personal liberties have been under attack since Chiron entered Aries in 2018. We've been seeing that. I believe it was 2018. Could be 17. I could be wrong. I may not have my dates correct on that, but it was around that time. So we've been seeing that emphasis of our own personal overcoming, our own personal hero's journey. And with Chiron stationing at the same time as Pluto is inviting us to look deeper, to embrace our shadow, to embrace our imperfections, because that's the thing about the shadow, is that is where your power lies. And if you don't believe me, do some shadow work. So that is where your true power lies. And so there may be an invitation within this 2-week period to embrace your flaws, embrace your inner saboteur. Like, not embrace it, but befriend it. Give it a name. Give it a different name and say, oh, thanks for sharing. That's what RuPaul always says. Thanks for sharing, but I'm going to do this instead. So this is a moment for personal empowerment, to become aware of your shadow side, whether that's a little voice inside your head or self-sabotaging tendencies or things that you do when you're feeling out of control that try to get you to regain some semblance of control, but maybe aren't the healthiest for you ultimately. So a lot of self-awareness and self-love and self-embracing can come from this, like knowledge of self. So be on the lookout for that. The other big one that's happening right around this time, and then I'm going to get into salty and sweet, is our Mercury cazimi. Mercury cazimi is happening at 9 degrees Leo on July 31st. So this is our halfway point between each Mercury station. So amidst this Mercury retrograde, we have Mercury entering the heart of the sun. This is a purification moment. This is where we can get a little bit more clarity and more direction and certainty around the reworking that's happening in our Leo house. Now, this is often very personalized. There's something quiet, personalized, and alchemical happening here with Mercury's alignment with the heart of the sun. So it may not be a big, loud firework display of an aha moment, but there's going to be a sense of alignment. So here's the exact moment of the cazimi, and I've noticed that you don't have to receive these Mercury cazimi insights right within the exact window of the cazimi. Sometimes I receive them the day before, sometimes it's the day after. You'll know. The other thing you can do is use this energy to intentionally set some intentions for yourself. This is a moment where Mercury, the messenger god, is literally in the heart of the sun. So this is a moment where you could intentionally communicate with Source at this time. This would be a really powerful moment to petition. So anyhow, let's move back here for a minute because we are going to discuss Venus. So on July 30th, Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, and relationships, is going to move into the sign of Cancer. Now, this is a lovely, lovely place for Venus to be. Venus really delights in the sign of Cancer. She holds dignity by triplicity rulership here. So this is a highly favorable configuration to work with Venusian endeavors. Now, this is also really lovely for what we're going to be witnessing culminate pretty much for the month of August. Moving forward, I just want to go forward to show you all that there's going to be a gorgeous Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the sign of Cancer. So we're going to be working with the buildup of this up until its exact moment, middle of August. We've got August 11th and 12th. And then Venus is going to continue that gorgeous co-presence in the sign of Cancer up until August 24th when she enters Leo. So we're gonna be working with this for a while. Actually, it might be the 25th. Yeah, it's the 25th that she enters Leo. So anyhow, just gonna go back. We love a Venus-Jupiter alignment in Cancer because this is a place where both benefics really thrive and delight. And it's because Venus and Jupiter are all about ease, comfort, and to have those things, we need a certain level of security, Cancer, to be embraced, Cancer, a sense of community, people who we love, whether that's our family or our chosen family or a romantic partner. I mean, that is why these planets do really well here, is because if we can check those boxes, there's a higher percentage that we're going to be feeling a sense of ease, joy, delight, and even celebration. So this is a beautiful configuration to tap into in terms of creating beauty intentionally, or intentionally cultivating a sense of happiness and joy and abundance. And this may be something that is naturally arising in your Cancer house. Now, I said at the beginning of this video, I said salty and spice, why can't we have anything nice? Because, or no, I said sugar and spice. Okay, so sugar and spice, why can't we have anything nice? And it's because at the same time, we're going to be seeing Mars move into this opposition with Saturn. So we have one of the harshest aspects imaginable that we're working with. And we also have one of the most beautiful aspects imaginable that we're working with. So we can just understand this in the sense that some areas of our life are going to feel really bountiful and blessed and abundant, and other areas are going to feel like sandpaper. So look at your Cancer house, because that is where there's been some high drama there. Speaking of high drama, this Mercury in Leo is maybe making nicer aspects, but it is a high drama Mercury retrograde. So think about that Mars retrograde in Cancer and what it created space for. And now you're getting the dessert. Now you're getting that luscious body butter rub down. And so there's something beautiful and creating of ease in your Cancer house. So we want to lean into that. During times of difficulty, it's really important that we take the time to notice the good, to notice where the blessings are, and to notice the ways in which we can fill our cup. Because I'll tell you, like, even on some of my most challenging days as a parent, like I definitely have them, I know that I need to do something to keep that energy up. Like I can't always let myself spiral, you know? And so you have to like force yourself to dance. You have to force yourself to laugh. You have to change your body language sometimes just to receive the good things that are there. We can't let the darkness win all the time. We can't ignore it either. So I just want you to know that there's some juiciness here for you. There's something really beautiful and wonderful going on here for you, but you've got to lean into it. The other thing that's going to happen when Venus immediately enters the sign of Cancer is she's going to run into Saturn long before Mars does. So what we're going to see here is a Venus in a square to Saturn and Neptune. Okay, so on one hand, we get Saturn, which is, hey, there's some real problems here. There's a deep awareness of what's in my way to be more comfortable, to have more security, whether that's financially, whether that's meeting my basic needs, or in my relationship. Very often, Venus-Saturn aspects are going to show up relationally. It's going to say, hey, there's something that we need to work on. There's a long-term problem that we need to solve now. We can't keep putting it off. Like, I know this is a difficult conversation, but now feels like a pretty good time to have it. And that could be along the lines of getting our needs met emotionally in our relationship, feeling heard in our relationship, as well as, planning the future financially, like making those big decisions together. So this is a big moment for big breakthroughs in relationship that come from effort. When it comes to Saturn, we can't avoid it. I mean, Neptune's here. Neptune says, can we just avoid it, please? So there may be that temptation, but there's always a reward when you do the Venus-Saturn work. Now, with Neptune here, this would be really amazing for intentionally cultivating something of artistic or spiritual value. There'd be something about like being disciplined spiritually or artistically or relationally. There's something about being disciplined in order to reach a certain state or being disciplined to reach a certain ideal. This would be really great for setting limits with yourself in terms of like any place where you feel like you've been overindulging. Like this would be a really great moment to use Saturn to say, hey, I'm gonna do less, or I'm gonna stop completely. But yeah, I think like with Venus Neptune, we normally get the opportunity for highly elevated experiences there, like this sense of transcendence. But with Saturn, it's like we have to overcome some things in order to get that. So it's like you can have the fantasy, but you have to put in the work. Or Saturn is saying like, I'm sorry that this fantasy, I'm sorry I'm bursting your bubble right now. Like this can lead to big disappointments actually in relationship, but also collectively financially. So now that we've got that out of the way, I think we really need to get into Mars. So Mars is going to be entering Libra on August 6th. This is a place where Mars is considered to be debilitated. Mars is considered to be in detriment in the sign of Libra. However, a planet in detriment is not always weaker. It just has to get much more creative in Mars's case in how it exerts itself. So Mars, a planet of the forward thrust, the punch, the confrontation, the aggression, fight or flight, Mars, the defense, has to get a little bit more creative in how it attacks in Libra. It's going to do so diplomatically. It's going to do so in a formally, socially acceptable kind of way. I think about Mars and Libra very much as like a prosecutor or a defense attorney, one where you're going to like formally make your case and use like psychological tactics to basically get the other person to admit something that they just wouldn't if you just went straight for it. So there's something kind of careful, intelligent, and manipulative about Mars and Libra, but it's also very much justice-oriented, fairness-oriented, and we have a definite power of the pen here, power of persuasion, and the power of charm, okay? So Mars in Libra is really good at like getting the other person to do the work by like the power of suggestion, or getting the other person to incriminate themselves. So this is interesting because this is happening on the world axis point. So this is happening on the equinox axis. Aries and Libra, Mars is coming into this opposition with Saturn here. So there's going to be something very public. And Mars-Saturn is an energy of frustration, a push and a pull. And we feel like we want to go forward, but there's something stopping us. Like we can't. So Saturn's saying you've got to be patient. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, though, is that these two are in a mutual reception. Saturn is exalted in Libra, and Mars is in domicile in Aries. So even though this is a highly frustrating energy, it's like we've waited, there's a sense of like anticipation. We've been waiting for something to happen, or there's a sense of like we have to be patient and something will happen. But in actuality, it will. While a lot of Saturn-Mars oppositions can feel really annoying and full of delays and stop signs and obstructions, this is one that can actually function. This is one that actually has a way of working out. And it's like Mercury is at this point trying to station direct here. It's stationing. But it's not going to station direct for a few more days. But anyways, it feels like maybe some of the delays we've been experiencing, like there's good reason for it. Like it has a way of working out, or it seemed like the thing wasn't going to happen. But once we're able to move forward, we find that we're in a much better place. So it's like we're still going to make headway here, but we're also going to have to deal with the frustrations and the delays, but it's going to work out. It's going to work out, I promise. So I know we're looking at this like sweetness and spice, but we are going to have something nice from this. We really are. We just have to endure. We have to shoulder the frustrations from it. Two more things to consider with this Mars-Saturn opposition is, firstly, Neptune is here. So a lot of times when we have Mars configured with Neptune, we're going to see that the battle is infused with some sort of high-minded or spiritual ideal. A lot of tendencies for religious fervor, for example. And again, this is occurring on the world axis point. Something we've been seeing more recently, I think about Mars's retrograde in Gemini when it was in a square with Neptune, is the theme of contamination. And it'll be interesting to see where the contamination arises here. And it is on this axis of like justice and Aries being the individual, but Aries also has a lot of connotations with rulers. And with Saturn in Aries, there's a tendency to see people stumble and fall, especially those in respected or elevated positions. And with this being in the sign of Libra, justice, themes of justice. So we may see like themes of miscarriages of justice, for example, around here. But more importantly, and this is the second point I wanted to bring up, is we have to go back to Mars's original conjunction with Saturn, which feels like a long time ago. It was April of 2024. And I'm sure Chris Brennan will probably do like a 7-hour deep dive on this, but and I look forward to tune in respectfully. I if you haven't been paying attention, Chris has been doing these incredible deep dives into like some of the historical connections with some of these planetary cycles. So it would be really cool to watch out for that one. I'd be very interested. But also Wade Caves is doing a workshop with like Saturn and Mars conjunctions, and that one would be really cool to tune into as well. But just a couple of points here that I wanted to bring up. So when Saturn and Mars get together, it's going to set the tone. This is like an alignment that happens every 2 years or so, 2.5 years. And it sets the tone for some of the biggest difficulties that we face as human beings. And this one occurred in Pisces. So that's one reason why we've been seeing a lot of tragedies with water. We've been seeing a lot of devastating floods. And going back even to this original conjunction, devastating tornadoes. I think that was Asheville, if I'm not mistaken. What happened in Asheville, I know that there was some devastating tornadoes in the south as well, just flooding, dams bursting. Those were just some of the things that I saw when I quickly Googled what was happening around that time. So I know like with Jupiter and Cancer, we've been seeing a lot of torrential downpours and flash flooding. And we've been able to point to Jupiter's square to Saturn for that. But really thinking about Mars and Saturn's conjunction in Pisces early last year, I think that we can attribute a lot to that. So we need to watch because we're entering hurricane season here. And unfortunately, funding for some of the technology that supports forecasters, meteorologists' ability to forecast has been cut, and there's been a lot of concern raised around that recently. So my thoughts are with, and my hopes are with everyone who is in those areas, that you can get the proper warnings necessary to evacuate. So we'll see what's going on there. So some other things that happened around that time were the campus protests, people using their voices, their right to protest against genocide in the world and the killing of people, the lack of humanity that's going on. And this is a conflict that's still going on. So maybe we'll hear more about that. The other big thing that was going on in terms of Trump was his hush money trial was going on during that time, which of course he was acquitted because they also passed like an immunity ruling on him, like the Supreme Court immunity ruling, which basically then they couldn't prosecute him, even though they found him guilty. Like they basically couldn't make him serve time or anything like that. So those things were also going on. And again, we're in this 2-week umbrella where the Epstein drama, I think, is only going to continue to reach a crescendo. So it'll be interesting to see what develops in connection there. So I think that that's all I have to say about this 2-week period. There wasn't a lot of minor aspects to discuss, but lots of big ones. Like there's a handful of very important aspects that we discussed here today. These are big ones. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction, that's one I've been talking with people about all year. Mars-Saturn, that's another one we've been anticipating all year. And yeah, I mean, I see this being a domino effect because what's around the corner from all this is eclipse season. We've got eclipse season next September, and those eclipses are going to be occurring in Trump's sign of the year, Pisces. And that's also the time when Mars is going to reach a square with his time lord Jupiter. So I think that early September, we can expect that to be really, really rough for the president. And in the meantime, we're going to see tensions continue to arise and situations to develop in the month of August. But don't forget to pay attention to your Cancer house. Don't forget to intentionally work with Venus and Jupiter and notice the goodness. Notice the goodness. Notice the people. Notice the people doing good. Notice the people doing good in your life, and take it upon yourself to be generous to others where you can. So thank you all for entrusting me today with your astrological forecast, and I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also find me at catherineurban.com, where you can schedule your year ahead consultation. I'm offering a new course. Time Lords and Transits begins on August 14th. Right now, you can still get that early bird rate through the end of June. This is an 11-week mentorship where I'm going to teach you everything I know about how to layer annual perfections and transits together in order to elevate your understanding of what time it is in your life and in the lives of your clients. So for more information, you can find that at katherineurban.com, where you can also sign up. And I look forward to connecting with you in class or here or in session soon. Bye.